Hello and welcome to my monthly video highlighting local Rideau Lakes issues. I take the opportunity today to speak to you about how planning and development works and the role the municipality plays in that process. I'm highlighting this topic given the recent public interest in a specific form of land use and development, namely campgrounds. Planning in Ontario is governed primarily by the Planning Act. Municipalities play an important role in setting policy and regulations under that act. These local policies and regulations shape the type and form of development you see daily. When new development is proposed or relief from a set standard is required, the Planning Advisory Committee, known as PAC, plays a key role in reviewing and making recommendations to Council. Application types reviewed include site plans, which detail the layout of new development on a site, and zoning, which determines the uses that can occur on a site. Requests for relief from provisions of zoning standards are known as minor variances or permissions and are heard by something called the Committee of Adjustment. The Committee of Adjustment is composed of the same membership and sits concurrently with the PAC. The PAC meeting is a public forum twice a month and is one of the busiest committees of Council. It includes myself and 4 members of Council. Land use planning in Ontario is founded on the concept of procedural fairness, public participation, and appeal rights. Procedural fairness is in place for all parties, including the proposed developer or property owner, as well as neighbors, stakeholders, for example, conservation authorities or Parks Canada or lake associations, and any other interested parties. While it may be frustrating at times, planning is all about process. In Rideau Lakes, our planning process focuses on balance. It is important that we strike the right balance between a property owner's reasonable use of their land and other social, economic, and environmental factors. Environmental factors include the protection of our natural heritage systems, including our lakes, wetlands, forests, ecological diversity, and other less apparent matters such as groundwater aquifers and climate change resilience. Economic factors include supporting appropriate development and growth to enable the opportunity for local jobs, innovation, and use of local resources. Social factors include supporting the development of a range of services, matters such as affordable housing, and the protection and support of our shared history and culture that makes Rideau Lakes unique and a place that we are all proud to call our home. Again, land use planning is all about balance. Local policies, such as the official plan and the wider provincial framework, which is called the Provincial Policy Statement, seeks to set out the factors that PAC and Council must consider in making planning decisions. Further, the policy set out what information and studies may be required to assess the impact and the risk, furthering to help inform the process and decision makers. Zoning bylaws then provide more focused detail than what you would find in the official plan. For waterfront development, given the proximity to our lakes, environmental drivers and policies tend to be a higher focus. Environmental impact studies, lake impact assessments, species at risk assessments, and stormwater management plans are all commonly required submissions. Further, the committee uses tools such as conditions, for example, shoreline replanting, on approvals to implement mitigation measures and control the form and scope of development for the long term. Waterfront campgrounds are a long-standing form of development in Rideau Lakes. Rideau Lakes is home to 16 campgrounds, which includes 1,346 sites. Campgrounds come in many forms. Most cater to long-standing seasonal campers who use their site year after year like a seasonal cottage. Others focus on transient sites, those reserved for tourists and vacationers. Most are a mix of the two. They are an extremely important contributor to our local tourism economy. Given the recent press coverage, you may have heard about a proposed expansion of the Waterway Campground on Hudson Bay on Big Rideau Lake. To date, new owners of the campground have not made a planning application of any type of approval. They are making upgrades to the property, including converting existing sites to a newer model of trailer, commonly known as park models. The use of park models in campgrounds has been occurring for years throughout Rideau Lakes and Ontario. Concerns have been expressed by many residents that any change or expansion at waterways will be detrimental to the neighbors, the bay, the lake, and the community as a whole due to uncompensated demand on municipal services and environmental degradation. Examples of past and current issues have been shared, highlighted, and reported by neighbors, concerned parties, and the Lake Association. In an effort to ensure the responsible regulating authorities are aware of public concerns, Council recently passed resolutions asking the responsible ministries or agencies to address concerns with respect to commercial septic systems, electrical systems, and taxation fairness. This action has subsequently made other campground operators in the township concerned that their sector is being unfairly singled out by the township. I understand why many may feel this way. That said, our request to the responsible ministries was not for extra regulation. Rather, it was to simply ensure they are adequately enforcing the rules in place and responding to any complaints. Any campground that is meeting or exceeding these basic rules or has a plan to do so has no reason to be concerned. Back to the waterways file specifically. Should the owners decide to make an application and propose an expansion of their operations, they will need to gain both zoning and site plan approval. This will allow the township to seek detailed studies to assess what impact those changes might have. The township can seek to have these assessments independently peer reviewed, and our own professional planning staff will review them as well. Further, the public and stakeholders all have a right to participate in this process. This can include presenting their opinions, information, ideas, concerns, or suggestions. In making a recommendation and a decision, this public feedback is important and carries just as much weight as the applicant's submission. Finally, should any party disagree with the township's decision on the file, be it the proponent or a stakeholder, they all have the right to file an appeal to an independent third party which will reconsider the matter and render a final decision. This body is now known as the Ontario Land Tribunal. While brief and in a summary format, I hope the above description gives you an idea of how planning is an open, transparent, and is participatory, and in some ways, obviously complicated. While much has been said, some of it incorrect or misleading by all parties, keep in mind no application has been made for Waterways Campground. We should not prejudge a proposed idea absent all of that detail. Once a redevelopment of a site often a redevelopment of a site actually improves the situation due to required updates to septic and stormwater systems. It can also include improving land compatibility uses impacting the neighbors, such as by increasing the setbacks, managing traffic impacts, or implementing buffers. Council is a strong proponent of this net benefit approach. Do not assume from my comments that Council is simply taking a wait-and-see approach. Multiple preemptive reports have been delivered by staff to the Planning Advisory Committee discussing campgrounds, how they are regulated, and discussing how the sector may be evolving. There is a question as to if existing policies and regulations still adequately address how the sector is evolving, which some would argue is into more of a seasonal community. Should Council at any time become sufficiently concerned that existing policy is inadequate to assess and address change in existing or proposed campground developments, an interim control bylaw, an ICB, can and will be used. An interim control bylaw will effectively and immediately freeze development in campgrounds or a campground for up to 1 year, while studies are undertaken and necessary policy changes are put in place. I commit to you that Council is executing its duties. In executing its duties, will be fair, open, and transparent. We will rely on process as we were required to do by provincial law. We will not be led or bullied by any side of a contentious issue. We are elected to consider and decide on the future of our community, always seeking balance and only development that is environmentally sustainable. One last thing. I would like to make clear that the municipality does own its own campground, Lower Beverly Lake Park in Delta. This campground, with 235 seasonal sites and many transient sites, is the largest campground in Rideau Lakes and the key economic driver for the Village of Delta. This campground is operated by an independent board of the municipality and has separate finances and annual audits. The park has consistently operated profitably and has also made capital reinvestments to upgrade the site and services at no cost to us, the taxpayers. I wish to be clear, any standards in place for campgrounds in Rideau Lakes are diligently applied to Lower Beverly Lake Park. It gains no favor from council and currently meets all regulatory requirements. Campgrounds do provide a valuable outlet for locals and visitors to spend time in Rideau Lakes at an affordable cost. They are a business, and if they are run properly, they are an important part of what makes Rideau Lakes the great place that it is. Thank you. Please continue to subscribe to this newsletter and share it with your social media friends.